Now, this is where it gets super complicated because of the nature of this particular man. But I was like, from that moment on, because he cornered me like that. And when you're little, like, we gotta understand this. When you're little, you have no reason to disbelieve an adult. None. So if a guy says he's gonna kill your family, he's gonna kill your family. There's no like ifs, ands, or buts about that. So this guy had already managed to figure out that my family and I were not a good match. We'll put it that way. It's like, you know, people would love me to say my parents were fabulous, I just got sort of taken. But the reality is that I didn't get along with my family, and especially my mother. I was like majorly ostracized in the family that I grew up in. So sociopaths often like to capitalize on that, like the kid that doesn't fit in or the kid no one relates to. They're like usually really quiet and sort of off to the corner, and that's a really good venue for them to kind of get in between the parents and the kid, which is exactly what he did. So when he told me that he would be there, that was like, I really look at that as sort of the end of my whole childhood, because from that moment on, it's like, it doesn't matter whether I'm going on a hike with my family or a camping trip or whether I'm at school. There's always a part of me that's like, where is he going to be? It's that scary sort of he's all around and could be anywhere at any point type of thing, which drives you nuts when you're in this kind of a situation. So that's when he started systematically, without my parents' knowledge, taking me places. Like, he'd take me from dance class sometimes, he'd take me from school. And we have to understand too, when I went to school, it was not like it is now. You didn't have to like take pictures of people who could pick your kid up. Nobody knew about this stuff, especially not in the bigger cities. I mean, everything hits rural towns like 5 years too late or 10 years too late. So nobody really thought that this was a possibility. And so what would happen is he'd send me to school after the first time, of course, of like just calling the school and saying Teal needs to meet us outside, and then me walking outside and having it be him there instead of my parents. He would send me to school in my lunchbox with these notes written from my parents that I was to hand in after they took roll. And they would say, Teal needs to come to gymnastics class or something, and we're going to pick her up at this time. And my little elementary school was on the grounds of a college campus. And so they couldn't monitor like where people were or weren't. There was adults all the time wandering in and out of the children because it was on a college campus. So it wasn't like there would be any red flags if there was a random person that showed up. And so he would say park his truck, and then I would get out and they'd be like, do you need someone to walk you out? I'd say no, and so I'd go out and I'd get in his car, and then he'd have me gone for the whole day and then bring me back and drop me off before my parents would pick me up. So that was a routine that went on for a while. Then he stole me out of bed a few times as well before he trained me to wake up, which was quite easy for him to do. He just employed like your basic Pavlov's response stuff. So I would wake up 3:22 a.m., walk out to the end of the driveway, and he'd pick me up and we'd go do these cult rituals. So I'll explain this person. The context of my childhood isn't going to make sense unless I do that, because the particular man who was what they call my keeper in this group had multiple personality issues, like big ones, where one minute you'd call him by one name and he wouldn't even know who you were talking to, you know, and then he'd have these, so basically he had these, like a personality which I would often call Doc, who was like the all-knowing, the one that most people in the society saw. And he was like a really educated, super charismatic, your typical sociopath type of a person who could have just pulled one on anybody. He was really friendly, really charming, super handsome. So that was that personality. The other personality was like super evil and was part of these satanic groups. So here we have this dichotomy. So you've got the multiple personalities with this person, and depending on which personality he had, he belonged to this group or this group. He belonged to two cults. One cult was that satanic cult, the other cult was the Blood Covenant cult. Now what gets ironic is that they're against each other. This is where if you really want to know about some messed up stuff that happens when you're too bored in a rural town and have some issues, the Blood Covenant cult doesn't take the opinion turn the other cheek. They don't agree with that. What they believe is that it's your direct job to rid the earth of evil. So they're aware that there are satanic groups that operate in the towns that they're living in. So what they do is they use somebody that's part of the group to infiltrate the satanic group so that they can hold counter rituals. So let's say that, and satanic people have, like if you look at their calendar year, it's at least once or twice a month they have some kind of holiday. So what they'll do, say if they have like a Black Sabbath day, is that the next day the Blood Covenant group will like hold a return back to the light of Christ type of ritual. So, and it's like, here you have mainstream Mormonism and mainstream society, and they're completely unaware of these things that are happening on the undercurrent here of these two rival groups, basically, that are more than aware of each other. So the man I was with was attending both of these ceremonies, but saying to the Blood Covenant group that he was just doing the satanic group stuff for the sake of holding counter rituals. So they're like, okay, good. Yeah, you can continue to do that because it benefits us. But from my perspective, he actually liked that and was really participating with it. So that's where it got super complicated. But over the course of, so that was when I was 6, it was when I infiltrated these groups with him. He was using me in the satanic group as, look at her abilities, she's got all these amazing abilities, you can use them to like invoke the devil and demons and things like that. And then simultaneously I'm getting like tortured by the Blood Covenant group because it was their idea that they could get the demon out of me. That was their whole philosophy. The reason that I could do this stuff is that my body was taken over by a demon, and that when I was 2, I kicked that spirit out and I took over, basically. And that if they could get this demon out, that spirit would come back. That was their whole thing. So they went to work, like, bleeding me, doing all kinds of, like, horrific stuff to try to get me to come back to Christ. So my childhood from age, what I consider 6, even though technically it started beforehand, that was when I really consider, like, the end of my childhood, when I got brought into them and I really didn't belong to my parents anymore. All the way to 19, I was with these groups and specifically with this man.